think when something gets into your head, like, it just doesn't leave until you do it. If you're like me, it's like you get an idea in your head of something that you want to do, or you can see yourself doing it in the future, and it's like it niggles away at you until you cave in and do it.
I know, completely. And then I was like, okay, tick, excellent, we've done that.
Hi everyone, it's Rachel here and welcome to episode number 11 of the Walk the Talk podcast. Hope you're well today. I have a really exciting episode for you as part of my Inspiring Stories series. I'm not going to tell you too much about it. However, just before we do dive into the interview, I did want to say that if you want to make a drastic change in your life, or if you want to follow a dream of any kind, whether that be changing jobs, buying a new house, moving countries, whatever it might be, and there might be something holding you back and you've not done it yet for whatever reason, then this is the episode for you. You must listen to it. I'm really excited about this interview with Sophie le Brozec. We met via Twitter. It was a random encounter, and I'm really glad that we connected because this interview is definitely one of the most exciting ones that I've ever done. So sit back, grab a cup of tea and enjoy this interview. I will be back towards the end of the podcast with more details on how you can find out more about Sophie and what she does. Until then, enjoy. So it sounds like you're living the dream life, is what people would say.
It's such a cliche, and part of me does want to sort of stay away from it and not talk about the dream life, but it's really hard to describe it as anything but, you know. So to just to give you an idea, I'm sitting in my office here, I'm looking out the window and I can see my swimming pool, I can see frangipani tree, I can see the mountains, it's a blue sky, it's November and I'm wearing a summer dress. The coldest it gets here is in winter. It goes down to about low 20s. And the hottest it gets in summer is about sort of mid to high 30s. Now, I'm a lizard and I absolutely love the warmth, so it's literally the perfect climate for me. And I absolutely love that. So, you know, and I now work for myself as well, so I work around my kids. So I've got two daughters, one who's nearly 5 and one who's nearly 11. And so I'm with them in the morning before school, and I do all that stuff. And then after school, I'm there for them. I do activities with them. I can be there, you know, to collect them from school, or to, you know, my eldest daughter goes on a school bus and I'm here when she gets in. I can chat to her about her day. You know, now I've been a working mum, a work-at-home mum and a stay-at-home mum at different times and in 3 different countries as well. So I've done all the different sides of it, and I've had the guilt trips in all the different areas, and I've done the loving it and the hating it and all those different ways of parenting and working as well. So now I really feel like I've got it really just how I want it. So I work the hours that suit me. You know, the weather is glorious, but it can also be miserable here sometimes. So it might be that there's an absolutely gorgeous day ahead of me and I'll say, right, okay, I'm not going to work today. I'm going to meet up with a friend for lunch, or I'm going to have a lazy day by the pool or whatever. And then I might work, you know, a Saturday instead. Or I might work extra hours on a day when it's rainy and miserable. So it really is my dream life. Doesn't mean it's everyone's dream life, but it's certainly my dream life.
Oh, definitely. It sounds like exactly what I am hoping to achieve over the next year as well. So you haven't always lived in Mauritius?
No, so we've just celebrated our 2nd anniversary here. We moved out at the end of October 2015, and prior to that I was living in London for 5 years. I lived there for 5 years. And in fact, I had never been to Mauritius before. I didn't know anybody who lived here. And we didn't even know if we would get the necessary paperwork to live here. I mean, we'd researched it all, and we knew that we probably should, but there were no guarantees. And we upped sticks and sold up everything from the house we were living in London, sold furniture, sold all sorts of stuff, and pretty much came out here with a 23-kilo suitcase each. And just kind of started afresh, and it was incredibly liberating, actually. People were like, oh my God, you're selling all your belongings, doesn't it feel awful? I was like, actually it feels quite refreshing.
I am doing that at the moment, and it's like riding some sort of mental, emotional roller coaster.
It's really funny, and you start looking at things and you're like, how important is this book to me?
Yeah.
Now, if is it important enough for me to pay how much it would be to ship it to wherever I'm going? And you start looking at, it's almost a bit like, what do you take out of your house in a fire, but on a slightly bigger scale.
Yeah, I love that analogy, actually. I might use that over the next couple of weeks.
And it is, when you're in the middle of it, I feel for you so massively at the moment, because when you're in the middle of it is so overwhelming and it's so emotionally draining. But once you've then got rid of the stuff and you're down to that, that suitcase or those few boxes or whatever it is, there's this like, this sense of relief. It's incredible. So just, you're almost there. You'll get there soon.
I'm looking forward to it. Was there a specific day or time or something that triggered you to say, right, okay, I am so done with this life in London. We want to go and move.
It had kind of built up over time. So people had said to us, before London, we were in France, and people had said to us, how long will you move to London for? And we said, who knows? We'll just, for as long as it feels right. Maybe that's forever. Maybe that's a year. We don't know. We'll see. And it ended up being 5 years. And it kind of crept up on us. So I lived so I'm British originally, for those who probably can tell from the accent. Yeah. So I grew up in the UK, and I lived in the UK until my early 20s. But I always loved the sun and the warmth and blue skies. And I moved to Nice in the south of France. But my husband is French, and he'd only ever lived in the south of France and California. And so when we moved to London, I did kind of try and warn him and say, grey skies, it can be quite depressing at times. It can be quite hard. He's like, I've been to England with you loads of times. It's fine. I was like, yeah, but 5 days and every day is very different. And it's true, towards the end of our 5 years there, he was really, really struggling with the grey skies and the cold and, that cold, rainy UK weather that we all know and are used to. And for me, certainly having had my 12 years in the south of France, it did get harder and harder for me. But we both really, really loved London as well. So it did, there wasn't oh my God, I hate it here, I can't bear to live here 1 minute longer. But we'd got to a stage where, so I was working as a childminder, but I also had a couple of other things going on the sidelines. So I'm a bilingual children's author as well. And I ran online courses at the same time. So I also had sort of online business things going on, and my husband, everything that he did, he only needed the internet for. He didn't go to a physical location in London. So there was this kind of realization that crept up on us over the winter, sort of the end of 2014 and start of 2015, of, well, we are living in London, but we don't actually have to live in London. And so we were kind of like, wow, okay. And once you have that realization, you sort of get out a map of the world and go, so where shall we live? And the whole family's bilingual, English and French. So we've got 2 kids, and we've raised them bilingually, and both my husband and I speak fluent English and French. And so that did give us a lot of options as well. And so it was sort of like, well, as long as there's decent internet connection and we're somewhere safe for the kids and what have you, we've got a lot of options. And so we did start looking at various places around the world, and we always joked about moving to an island. And so we were kind of umming and ahhing about, would we leave the UK and just move somewhere cheaper so that our money was a lot stretchier, or would we go far away? And, we were sort of toing and froing between the different ideas. And we were actually looking at South Wales at the time. Mm-hmm. And because my parents live in Berkshire, so I was like, okay, whilst they're only an hour away from us in London, if we're in South Wales, it's still fairly accessible. Mm-hmm. And then he was watching this video about Mauritius one day, and whilst we were having all these conversations, and he said to me, "What about Mauritius?" And I literally just went, "Hell yeah!" And then went, "Where is it again?"
Oh my God.
And you know, I just kind of knew it was like this honeymoon destination and luxury holiday destination, and I knew it was an island somewhere hot, and I kind of knew it had links to France, mm-hmm. but didn't really know anything more than that. But at the time, I was like, "Oh my God, South Wales, bye-bye. Yes, tropical island. Hello." And I was like, "Hell, we'll fly the family out. That'll be fine."
Yeah.
And then so literally split-second decision, and then that day we sort of sat, the two of us, and looked into it and researched it, and just literally spent the whole day Googling it and watching documentaries, mm-hmm. and swatting up on everything about it. And I think it was either later that same day or possibly the next day that we made our decision and said to our eldest daughter, who was 8 at the time, we kind of broke the news to her. Mm-hmm. And and we were just like, we're just going to do this, because it might not work out, but when it doesn't, I teach to my readers on my blog and to my clients. I teach that when you make a decision, there's always this fear about that you'll be on this path and you'll come to a crossroads, and which way is the right way, and you don't know, and no one's there to tell you, take this path and that is the right decision. And so people get scared and they don't make decisions. But the thing is, when you make a decision and you follow that path, even if it's the wrong decision or it doesn't work out the way you'd hoped, you can do what I call, when you've got your sat nav in the car and you take the wrong path and you take the wrong turning and it says recalculating. Yeah. And that's what I say to people. Then you just recalculate. You're not going to then do an about turn and head back the way you came from. You just recalculate and go, okay, that didn't work out, so where shall I go from here? So it's loads of different pathways which could go in so many different directions. So we knew, because we'd already made decisions in the past, we'd already left France and moved to the UK and made business decisions and all sorts. We already knew that if it wasn't the right decision, if it didn't work out, then we would just do something else. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't be the end of the world. So yeah, we just kind of went, let's just do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. That's honestly like the way that I think now is, when people ask me, because I will fill you in off podcast at some point, but I can't sit still. Like I can only stay in the one place for like maybe a year or two. And one of the biggest things that people always say to me is, "Rachel, what if you do this and it doesn't work out?" I'm like, well, I'm going to enjoy the process of finding that out, because there's always something to be learned from taking a wrong path. I moved to Manchester in 2015 from Glasgow, and it was a massive risk. I closed the business here, opened a new one, and just went for it. It didn't work out. 18 months later, I was back in Glasgow. But I have to tell you that those 18 months that I had in Manchester, I met so many amazing people. If I hadn't moved there, the business that I have now would not be anywhere near where it is. And
you wouldn't be the person that you are now.
No, and I have made so many lifelong friends from it. It's just incredible. And I always say to people that are paralysed by fear, that are trying to make a decision but are scared of the outcome, is like, if you feel that this decision needs to be made, if your gut is telling you this is what you need to do, then you need to just do it, because
you just need to do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, nothing really is the end of the world. I say to people, have some kind of safety net. Mm-hmm. Don't like blow every single last penny you have on a flight and then have nothing else.
Yeah, no,
you need to have some kind of a safety net, but you've got to also have an element of risk. And I've done this with young kids as well. I've done this taking kids out of their school, their friendship groups, and everything. And kids are resilient, and we're resilient too. And I've set up businesses in the past that have failed. I have made decisions that haven't worked out, but you know what, you learn from that, and then the next decision you make, you're so much better informed about, And there's a very good quote, which I'm probably going to misquote here, and I'm pretty certain it's Nelson Mandela, which is, I don't fail, I learn. Mm-hmm. So, everything is it's either a success or it's a lesson.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
And I think so many people are crippled by indecision because they're so terrified about making the wrong decision. But what they don't realize is that indecision is a decision in itself.
Oh yeah.
And just by sitting there and not choosing, because you're living in limbo. Because say, for example, you can't decide about whether you want to move. Mm-hmm. Well, you're not living your life where you are at the moment because you're not investing in it, because you're thinking, well, we might not stick around. But equally, you're not investing in the new life either, and planning and getting ready to move, because you can't make that decision. And so you're in this little, in between land while you faff around trying to decide.
Yeah, and that can go on for a long time if you don't take action.
God, yeah, and then it gets messy.
Oh yeah. So your two kids, what age were they when you moved out to Mauritius? Did you say 8?
When we made the decision, they were 2 and 8, and we moved as they were coming up to their 3rd and 9th birthdays.
Yeah.
So for the little one, it wasn't really a big deal. Mm-hmm. She had her little friends, but at that age, they move super easily and what have you. But for the older one, she was at an incredible school. So she was at her school was literally at the end of our road. Mm-hmm. It's an Ofsted outstanding school, mm-hmm. which, getting into one of those is ridiculously difficult. She had an incredible bunch of friends who literally all lived on the same road as us or a couple of roads away. So, she could walk to her friends' houses. She'd known these kids since she was 4. Mm-hmm. It was this huge circle of, trust that she had and friendship. And, she was so happy in this little bubble. Mm-hmm. And we had an incredible support network. Like, I'd set up a babysitting circle. I'd set up a book club. I had really good friends. I absolutely loved where we lived. So it wasn't, oh my God, I'm so miserable here, I have to move away. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of moving them, well, certainly the eldest one was really, really, it was not one that I took, I said I made this split-second decision, but it's not one I took lightly either. Mm-hmm. I just knew deep down that was the right decision for us. And, it's been incredible. Just to give you an idea, a few months ago, we took our eldest daughter to go swimming with dolphins in the wild before school.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, any doubt I might have had about whether this is the right decision for my kids.
Yeah, you have these moments, don't you? You get these moments where you look, or where you see something or you do something, and it just sinks in, like, yeah, this was exactly the right thing. And they just have, my kids have this incredible life. And because we've got the work-life balance with them as well, like, they might get in from school and we'll all bundle into the pool together. Mm-hmm. Mum, dad, kids, have a play in the pool. The type of thing you would do on holiday, when everyone's really relaxed and that you'd have your 2 weeks of a year. Mm-hmm. And that's a Wednesday afternoon, Yeah, sounds like amazing. So you sound like you've always been the type of person who just gets a gut feeling, goes with it. Obviously, like you said, there's always a calculated risk in there, and you don't take things lightly and just up and leave. Yeah. So take me back.
I think most of the time, I've gone with the gut. You have phases where you listen to your intuition less and you listen to your head more. Mm-hmm. And the naysayers and people saying, you can't do that. That's too risky. You shouldn't do that. And there are times in my life, like everyone else, that I think, well, I can't, because obviously that was crazy. And now I listen to my gut and my intuition so much more. Mm-hmm. And, I've always been quite a sensible girl as well. So I'm still got that sensible head on as well of, okay, is this crazy? I wouldn't mm-hmm. have taken my kids into deepest, darkest Africa. No. I wouldn't have taken them, to an island that doesn't have, good infrastructure. Like here, we have incredible healthcare, we have incredible education. So, whilst it might sound crazy to a lot of people, there are 2 main languages spoken on Mauritius, and that's English and French, mm-hmm. which are languages that the whole family speaks. Yeah. I checked out the education setup. I checked out the, healthcare setup. It's an incredibly safe place to live. They don't have terrorism. They don't have dangerous diseases. They don't really have climatic issues. There's an occasional cyclone, but, more people are killed on the roads in the UK probably in a day, more than that, than are killed in a year in cyclones in Mauritius. So, whilst it might sound from people listening to this, so, oh my God, she's crazy, she's such an irresponsible mum.
I bet you've had that.
Oh, massively, yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
But whilst, yes, I did go with the gut reaction of, yes, it could be incredible, I had also made sure this is going to be safe. I'm not putting my kids at risk.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're kind of doing this in reverse, but take me back even further, because I have your email in front of me here. And you met your husband in a bar on a Saturday night, is that right?
Yeah. So
and the reason I'm asking that is because you obviously he has been by your side through this whole transitional period, so I'm guessing that he has a similar sort of outlook on life as you do.
Yeah, definitely. So it's really funny. So I was single when I moved to France, and I met my first French boyfriend in France, another Frenchman, and I was with him for nearly 3 years. And he was so conservative, like, don't take any risks, like, play by the rules, do everything that society tells you have to do. And so I kind of conformed to that as well. And we then broke up, and it was very messy. We bought a house together, and I was massively like, wow, do not want to get into another relationship, do not want to, run the risk of getting my heart broken. I'm not ready for this, what have you. And 3 months after we split up, I was in a bar on a Saturday night in France with my best friend, and we got chatting to these two guys who were sitting at a table next to us. And I really clicked with both of them, but in particular with one of them. And we're chatting away and chatting. At the end of the night, he asked me for my number, and my absolute only thought was, this seems like a really lovely guy. I just come out of a relationship, so most of my friends were, couple friends who, knew us as a couple together or are friends of his. I could do with more friends. So, okay, this would be great to have a new friend. Like, literally did not have the slightest romantic inclination at the time. And then we spent a week kind of messaging each other and met up a couple of times. And within a few days, I was like, might need to rethink this. and this is when my sort of, gut reaction kicked in, because a week later, literally a week after I met him, I told my best friend who was with me that night in the bar, I said, I've met my future husband. And she cracked up laughing, and she was like, you are crazy, absolutely no way, you don't know the guy, you've just met him, this is pure rebound. And I was like, no, I absolutely know what I'm doing. There's this, without wanting to sound too woo-woo, I was like, there's this real connection here. And whilst soulmate sounds so like cliched and whatever, it just felt so right. And 3 months after we met, we moved in together. And 6 months after we met, we got engaged. And everyone was like, this isn't going to last. This is a rebound. You don't know what you're doing. I mean, we were 25 going on 26 at the time. And, he'd come out of a relationship as well. So everyone was just like, you don't know what you're doing.
Perfect storm.
I know. Funnily enough, it was our parents who were the ones who went, no, this is right. Both sides were like, no, we can see. There's an expression in French which roughly translates as you found the shoe that fits your foot.
Oh, wow.
And I remember his mum saying that to us and saying, no, I just know this is right. And this year we celebrated our 14th wedding anniversary. So I kind of feel a little bit like sticking two fingers up at everyone going, yes.
Wow, that is so cool. How do you say that? How does it sound in French, that saying?
Vous avez trouvé la chaussure à votre pied.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. I love that saying.
And so, and he had a very similar outlook. So he's an entrepreneur as well, and he's really kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone to try different things. Like beforehand, I was more kind of, because I'd been in that relationship with a very conservative guy, and safe, and he was like, no, we should do this, we should try this, we should and I was like, ooh. And he's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And like we bought this house together, and it was my forever home and what have you, and we decided to set up a business together. And I was like, but if it doesn't work out, we might lose the house. And he was like, it's bricks and mortar, literally like this, deadpan. I was like, and in the end we did lose the house, and it was really hard. But equally, now I look back, I'm like, I'm so glad I lost that house, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't be living in Mauritius.
Yeah, wow, yeah. But I bet it didn't feel like that at the time, though.
No, God, no.
It's only when you look back you think, oh,
exactly.
that all that pain was worth it in the end.
Exactly.
So if there was somebody, and there will be many people listening to this interview at the moment, thinking, oh my God, this has just sparked something inside me that I've been dying to let out for a long time. I don't know what it might be. Maybe you want to travel the world. Maybe you want to change your job. Maybe you want to move house. Maybe you want to ask that person to go out to dinner, whatever it is. But maybe holding back because of fear, or because of what if, or perhaps this has been an ongoing thing for years and years and years, and you still haven't done anything about it. What would your advice to that person be? I know that's a pretty massive question.
I think we tend to think that the worst case scenario is going to be worse than it is. Mm-hmm. So in the bar, he asked me for my number, but I'm the one that started the conversation with him. Mm-hmm. And, when we set up our business with the risk that we would lose our house, that for me was this horrific worst case scenario. So just a bit of background there. We had built this house off plan. It had been a 2-year process of seeing the plans, signing up, watching this house go up from the floor upwards, moving into it. I got pregnant in that house. I've spent my whole first pregnancy in that house. That's the house I brought my first baby home to. I remember choosing the fireplace, and my dad and my husband building the swimming pool in the back garden in that house. There were so many emotions linked to that house. And then if we set up this business together and it didn't work out, we would probably lose the house, because we were both giving up jobs. We had a child to support. So, it was pretty certain if that business didn't work out, our worst case scenario was we would lose the house and possibly end up living with my parents, with our daughter, in my childhood home. And that is actually what happened. That was my worst case scenario, which I thought, oh my God, can I actually face this? And when my worst case scenario came about, just imagine this in your minds. I was living in this beautiful Provençal village in the south of France. The dream that all Brits, want to escape to this gorgeous Provençal village where you walk to the boulangerie on a Sunday morning and get your fresh baguette.
Sounds amazing.
That's where I was living. And we ended up selling that and moving back into my childhood home, with my husband and my 3-year-old daughter, both looking for jobs, looking for somewhere to live, age 34. And it's like, that was my worst case scenario. And it happened. And it wasn't that bad. Mm. And I learned so much from it. And then that was just a stepping stone to the next stage of my life of, okay, now what shall I do? Now where shall I go? And the worst case scenario will always feel worse, whether it's, asking that guy for a drink and he says no, or whether it's, giving up your job and it doesn't work out and then you have to get a new job again, or whether it's moving and it's not the dream and you end up having to do something else instead. It's never, ever as bad as you think it will be. Mm-hmm.
I love that. Love it. I needed to hear that as well on the brink of about to leave the UK. So you're how long are you? Have you got any plans for the future? Do you see yourself staying in Mauritius? Do you think you'll be there forever, or is that something that you're just gonna...
we've got big plans for the future. I always had big plans for the future.
I know. I was going to say that.
So I think at this precise moment in time, I can't imagine anywhere in the world I'd rather live. Mm-hmm. However, having said that, we have a plan where we want to take off for a year. Mm-hmm. With our kids. We want to do traveling for a year with our kids in a camper van, 6 months in Europe and 6 months in the US. Mm-hmm. Hopefully in the next kind of year or two, we'd like to do it. Do homeschooling with them, live in the camper van, do visit all over Europe and, take them to these places, take them like to ancient Rome and ancient Greece and take them to see, the Northern Lights. Mm-hmm. And take them to like a concentration camp and take them to see like olive groves. Mm-hmm. And take them, to all these incredible places in Europe and do the same in the US. We want to go along like the southern states of the US. Mm-hmm. From one coast to the other. And just take them out of classic school for a year and homeschool them and go off and have these incredible adventures together with them and then come back to Mauritius afterwards.
Yeah. Sounds like a great plan. Do you need any help with that?
I am following various families at the moment on social mm-hmm. media and YouTube and Instagram and things like that who are doing, mm-hmm. Homeschooling and world traveling with their kids. I'm kind of like asking them, right, okay, how is it working in the camper van? And mm-hmm. how are you managing to do the homeschooling? And how is it working running your business, from the camper van and internet and things like that? So definitely I'm swatting up on it at the moment.
Oh, good stuff. So what do you do now, work-wise?
So I always have lots of hats. Yeah. I'm multi-passionate, and so I always do lots of different things. So I've already mentioned that I am a bilingual children's author. So I have a book out there called Elodie and the Pirates, and in French, Elodie et les Pirates. Mm-hmm. So that just you can get that on Amazon, and that just sort of ticks away in the background. Mm-hmm. I also run 2 online courses in languages. So one is for English speakers who want to learn French, and one is for French speakers who want to learn English. Mm-hmm. So I have those going on as well. And then I have a website and blog, which is my name, so sophieLeBrozec.com. And I help and motivate women to love the life they live, in particular mums. Mm-hmm. And so I have online courses and ebooks and a private membership club mm-hmm. to help and inspire and motivate women, in particular, sort of, making decisions and working on self-care, self-love, doing what they want to do, particularly with mums. There's this thing about where you sort of put yourself at the bottom of the list and mm-hmm. I'll look after myself and make sure I'm happy once everyone else is okay. Mm-hmm. So it's very much about sort of, getting people, or getting women, getting mums to put themselves back at the top of their list of priorities.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. So so anyone that's listening to the podcast that wants to find out a little bit more about what you do, your website, I will put into the podcast notes so that they can just click through there. I guess they can find you on Facebook and Twitter and that kind of thing as well. I'm on
Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, Sophie le Brozec. And so you can find photos of Mauritius and random inspirational things, and me being very kind of honest and makeup free and telling it like it is. And I'm actually launching a vlog in the next week or so, which is Sophie Raw and Unpolished, and that's sort of just my everyday kind of what I'm up to, because people are always really curious to see, what is it like living mm-hmm. in Mauritius, and what does that entail. So that's coming up soon as well.
Oh, that sounds great. I look forward to watching that. Any final thoughts for anyone that's listening? Anything else that you want to say or put across? Or
I think it's so important to understand that life is incredibly short, and you often hear about people who make these huge life changes after the loss of a loved one or a cancer scare or all things like this. And I think it's important to not wait for that scare or that loss to actually make that change in your life. We do a lot of sleepwalking through life. And I'd love to say to people, if you are, if you're hitting the alarm in the morning and go, you know, how long till the weekend and how long to my holiday, then you need to be thinking very carefully about what you're doing, because life is incredibly short and there's no reason why you can't be living your dream life.
Completely agree. Sounds awesome. Thanks very much, Sophie, for taking the time out of your evening to talk to me today. I think it's been incredible. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Rachel. Thank you so much.
Big thank you to Sophie for that incredible chat. I hope you have got something out of it. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you are all now itching to do that thing that you've been desperate to do for so long and you've been putting off. And if you want to know more about what Sophie does, you can head on over to Sophie's website. That's sophielebrozec.com, SOPHIELEBROZEC.com, sophielebrozec.com. I'm sure she'd be more than happy to help you achieve whatever it is that you want to set out to achieve. And also you can get in touch with me as usual. That's Rachael at walkthetalkfitness.co.uk. Rachael is spelled Rachael for those of you that don't know. Rachael at walkthetalkfitness.co.uk. You can get in touch with me there. You can also head on over to my website, that is walkthetalkfitness.co.uk, which is shortly going to be completely revamped and relaunched for the new year. I'm very excited about that. All right, so to wrap this up, I'm going to say thank you again very much for joining me. Please head on over to iTunes and leave a review for the podcast. It really does make a big difference. Please, please, please do that if you haven't already done that. And I look forward to talking to you again next Friday when I have another amazing interview with a very special Scottish girl who is going to inspire you to make a big change in your life if this one hasn't already done that. All right, speak to you then, guys. Get in touch, do whatever you want to do, and I'll see you next week.